All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the Mamas at Work podcast. I am here with Lisa Marini, and we are going to be talking about all things being an entrepreneur, being a mom, and just life, and just see where the conversation takes us. So, Lisa, you are a coach, and a lot about mindset I'm learning from what you've been doing, but you have so much going on. I saw all of the different like qualifications, like uh credits that you have, that you've gotten degrees and you've gotten all this coaching and training, and oh my gosh, you have been busy.
I'm a junkie. What can you say?
You're like, I
I
just
love
can't stop.
I just can't stop. Yeah, I've just kind of follow what I love. I think, when
Mhm.
I shifted from my previous career into trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do, I just started following where I procrastinated. And I would procrastinate doing things like reading neuroscience journals or reading stuff about spirituality. And the more that I get excited about it, I would just start collecting trainings and certifications. So, it's stuff I love.
That is so cool. So how did you get into that, like, spiritualistic mindset? I mean, like, what was the neurolinguistic programming, all that stuff? Like, how did you start with all that?
Well, my previous career, I was a multifamily superintendent for a large scale general contractor. So,
Right.
as a
Yeah, what does
female,
that mean?
yeah, so, large construction projects, so like a big apartment project, I was the
Gotcha.
person in charge of all of it. So, you've got your plumbers, your electricians, your everybody on staff, and then all the people under them. I was the person that led the whole project. And you
Oh my
can
gosh.
imagine, right? And as a woman, they didn't, I was really young too when I started it. They thought I was the secretary every time a guy would come on the job site.
Oh dear
So
Lord.
not only as a woman did I have to like prove myself, I had to put in like 120% effort just to be decent. Guys could show up on the
Mhm.
job site and like 75% they were fine, right? I had to go way, way, way and above and beyond. So the amount of stress really started to impact my health. I had
Mhm.
massive memory loss in my 30s, which is really scary when you're 30 years old and you
Yeah.
don't have memory. And my hair was falling out. I had chronic migraines. And every doctor I went to was like, oh, this is stress. And I thought, okay, well, I'm tough. I'm kind of a badass. I can out tough stress. I think a lot of us think we can just be bigger than stress. And that's what I thought. And I eventually was in a conference with a neuroscientist, and he showed what happens to the brain under stress. And I went, oh my gosh, there was this aha moment for me that it's just a biological thing, no different than I can't outthink a bad vision. I have to wear glasses.
Mhm.
I can't outthink stress. So that's really what got me on this journey, was seeking out how to fix my own health and how to get better. And I realized it started with the brain. And the more I learned about it, the more I got excited. And I realized it changes your behaviors and how you react to situations. It was just super intriguing to me. So that's kind of how I started on this journey.
That's really cool. Okay, so how long, because you were working as the, like, overseer.
Yeah,
I'm
the
just
super, I
picturing,
was
like,
super, yeah,
somebody up at the top, you know?
the boss babe. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
I did that
How
for
long?
17 years.
Okay, 17 years. And then you met that person at a conference. How long after that did it take you to
Well,
um transition out?
it was actually kind of an overnight phenomenon. The story is interesting. My kids were younger at the time, and I was tucking my oldest son in, and I honestly don't remember how old he was, but I was tucking him in, tickling his back. You know what us moms do? We just love that time, right? And
Yeah.
I asked him, I said, "Babe, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what do you see yourself doing?" And he goes, "Probably be a doctor or a lawyer." And I thought, uh,
Cool.
probably not, kiddo, because you can't stand the sight of blood. Like, it makes you pass out, and you're not really like, you wouldn't be able to be a lawyer. Like, it would drive you nuts. Like, if people were arguing with you, right? So I kind of was curious as to why he wanted to do that. And he said, Mom, it's for the money, because I really like to have money and want to have nice shoes and nice things. And I thought,
Mm.
wow, this is a learning moment, because you know, I don't want him to chase money. And so I said, honey, why don't you find something you love, like absolutely passionate about, and do that, and the money will follow. And he was kind of confused. And he said, well, like, what would that be? I said, well, what are things that you love to do? And he goes, well, Mom, I love to take pictures. We had just gotten him a camera for
Oh,
Christmas. And so he loved to do like photography, and he was really cute. He'd lay in the grass and he'd get like the blades of grass and like, it was super cute. So he loved photography, and he said he also loves sports. And I said, well,
mm,
there's lots of cool things. You could marry the two, and you could be a sports photographer, and you could travel with the teams and be on the field. And his eyes were like huge. He had no idea that you could like do what you loved and actually earn money doing that. It just was mind
mm.
blowing for him. So he's really excited about that. And then, of course, what our kids do, he said, Mom, do you love what you do?
And you're like, uh-oh.
I was like, oh, well, you see me crying every night when I come home, my amount of stress, you see me being sick. No, I don't love what I do. And then he said, well, what do you love? And then do that. And I actually, it was one of the most pivotal moments in my life because I didn't know what I loved.
Mm.
I had given so much of my life proving that a woman could run a construction site because I was told I couldn't do it because I was female. And I was also single mom. Like I had to earn a living with these two young kids. And so I didn't know what I loved.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking. And so I, just started to cry. And he goes, whoa, 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 Mom, you love to paint. There's artwork all over the house that you've painted. How about you be an artist? And I was like, well, yeah, I love your idea, babe, but like, I can't, that's not going to pay the bills. And he goes, well, that's not what you just told me. And in
You're
that
like,
moment,
yeah.
yeah, our kids are our greatest teachers, right? So in that moment, I realized I have to show him. Like I can't talk about it. I can't say, oh, do what you love and the money will follow and be a hypocrite. So it
Right.
was the next day that I, just started seeking, okay, what are some of these procrastinations that I've kind of chalked up and where do I want to start? I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea I was going to be a coach, but I just started. I enrolled and I just wanted to prove to them, hey, follow what you love, the money will come.
Oh man. No, that's so beautiful. I love that story. I think a lot of times we try to kind of separate being a mom and being a business owner or being, a working woman. But the fact that, just having that small conversation with your son was so profound and had such
For
a huge
both of us,
impact on
yeah.
what you eventually did. It's all connected.
It is. And he's so proud of it because I tell this story a lot and he just feels like, wow, I've contributed to my mom's life. And
He
that's ultimately
did.
what we want for our kids, right? Is to feel empowered and to be passionate. And for him to watch me now full time in my career, totally left the construction career. He sees me in a different light. He tells me he's proud of me all the time and he knows he's a huge part of that. And so is my other son, right? He contributes to my coaching stuff all the time. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I use that little technique with my clients? And he's like, yeah, Mom, absolutely. Right. So
Whatever, I just
whatever.
happened to think of that.
Kids are the best. They're great.
Yeah.
You have kids, right?
I do. Yep.
How old are yours?
They're 7 and 8.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find yourself inspired by the stuff they say? And it's just so simple sometimes.
Always. All the
Yeah,
time. Well, and it's always just stuff that like you feel like you knew as a kid, you know?
exactly.
It's that stuff it's in us somewhere, but when we become adults, we just put all these other things on top of it and they just like break through that because they're like, "What? No." They, I have the answer. And you're like,
Well, we've gotten so serious, right? We get so serious, so responsible. And sometimes the answer is that childlike simplicity where we're like, oh, right. It's
yeah.
that easy.
It really is that simple sometimes.
Yes.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that story about you and your son.
Thank you.
Like, and that's so cool that just like right away I love that resilience of spirit that you just right away were like, no, he's right. I'm right. Like you started this conversation. You were right
Yeah.
about that. And you just right away were like, okay, I gotta change this. Like, I gotta fix this because this is not a good place to be. That
Yeah.
is an amazing spirit.
Thank you. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't want to lie to him. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a hypocrite. I didn't want to lie. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be hard for him. It's going to be hard for his brother. It's going to be hard for anybody, but I got to show him it can be done. So that's really what, put me down this completely new path to show them.
And then just picking up all these all these trainings along the way.
Well, that's what's funny, right? It's just, and that's what I tell people. A lot of my clients will say, gosh, I'm really stuck in my career. I'm really lost my passion. I kind of don't know who I am anymore. And that's where I was at. I didn't even know what I loved.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started to go, okay, wait a minute. I procrastinate doing the stuff I should be doing, and I go and do this other stuff. Well, that means I obviously like it. What if I created a life where I couldn't distinguish work from play? So that kind of became my mantra. And I just started dabbling in the stuff that I loved and then put it all together. And it's what I do now. And I'm like, how is this my life? Like, how do I not distinguish work from play every day? It's phenomenal. It's truly the best thing ever.
Okay. So of course you've heard that adage of do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Is that you?
Absolutely. I mean, there's work. Don't get me wrong. We all have to put work in. You put work in, I put work in. I think the distinction is when there's effort, there's energy put into something that doesn't have that heavy drag. It doesn't make you not want to get up in the morning. Work is work. It just doesn't have to be miserable. So yeah, I work, but it's not miserable. I love it. I'm excited every day. What I get off the call with clients and I shake my head and I'm like, how am I getting paid for this? Like, that was like hanging out with the girlfriend, right? Like, it's awesome.
It's so fulfilling.
So fulfilling. And I feel like I'm making a difference, and it's not me, right? I'm just holding space for somebody else to experience something new in their lives, or to see something maybe that they're not seeing. And that's it. To feel like I'm part of something bigger than myself.
Yeah. Okay. So talk a little bit about that. Like, what do you do with your clients?
Gosh,
What don't you do?
yeah, that might be shorter. I think the biggest distinction that I would say, the way that I coach, it's brain-based coaching, and a lot of people don't understand that, and that's why I do it, right? I like to have something that's different and unique. Our behaviors are driven biologically, but most of us aren't taught that aspect, right? So, for example, if you get constructive criticism, and one time you take constructive criticism really well, they say, hey, you should be a little bit more organized. And you're like, yeah,
I should.
yeah, you're kind of right. I probably should. Thanks for that great tip.
Yeah.
But if somebody else delivers, hey, Heather, you should be more organized, and you're like, how about you be more organized? Like, we go into like super defensive.
Excuse me.
Right? Yeah, the sassiness come out. That is the response of how the brain is perceiving that conversation, and that's across the board. So whether you're in relationship and your loved one asks you to unload the dishwasher, the way that it's said to you could come off of like, yeah, sure, I'll unload the dishwasher. Or what do you mean unload right? The way we respond to things is simply the way that our brain is perceiving the interaction. So does it feel like it's threatened, or does it feel like it's not threatened? It's really that simple. It's black and white. There's two different brain states. And so I feel like the work that I do is the precursor to all the personal development work out there. We've got so many amazing tools. We have love languages. We have awesome communication tools. We have ways to navigate, goal setting. We have tips to do that. We have awesome stuff out there. But if we're in that defensive brain state, forget those tools, right? We're already shut down. We don't want to have any part of it. So we don't have access to that stuff. So that's the kind of coaching that I do, is I help people understand how their brain works. And once they learn how to manage how their brain works, then they can completely change their lives. They can go into these new tools and actually apply them and use them. But we have to understand our biological reaction first. And I just feel like that's where we miss the mark so much with all the other work out there. I mean, the brain is at the source of everything. What you're going to decide you're going to eat for dinner, if you're going to, be responsive or open to somebody's communication with you or not, if you're going to go exercise today or not. Your brain makes all those decisions. I help people understand how the brain works. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it totally does. So when that comes down to like habits
Yeah.
that we think we can't break,
Hmm.
right? We think it's just a part of me now. I'm just fill in the blank. I'm just lazy. I'm just disorganized. What do you say about that? Because that's a really bad. That's a tough mindset to get over.
Absolutely. Well, here's the beauty of how the brain works. 90% of our brain is subconscious. Look at you you're all excited. You're like, let me
I
get some
am.
more.
I love this.
I love you. I love you. 90% of our brain is subconscious. Only 10% of our brain is conscious. A lot of people argue that's 5% and 95%. That scares me to think like, oh my God, we only have 95, we only have 5% control, right? It's the subconscious part of the brain that obtains the goals. It's the conscious part of your brain that sets the goals. Okay. So
Mm.
let's say you're like, ooh, I'm going to eat healthier this week. I'm going to not eat sugar and I'm going to eat paleo. I'm going to eat, well, I don't know, whatever we decide we're going to eat. That's the conscious mind setting the goal. It's the subconscious mind that will obtain the goal. Most of the time, the problem that happens when we're changing habits or setting goals is there's a miscommunication.
Mm.
It's a missed high five. It would be like sometimes we over explain it, right? So we get really, really detailed. Okay, I'm going to eat this many macros today and this many calories and this, right? Like I'm going to have this many carbohydrates and this much protein, et cetera, et cetera. And we have our meal plan and we do whatever. Our subconscious mind works in images and symbols. It's sort of like a 4-year-old a little bit. If we were to over explain something to a 4-year-old, it's going to be confused. So if we were to go tell the 4-year-old, hey, go up and organize your books in your room, put them in alphabetical order by author's last name, and then
Yeah.
categorize them, right, by publication date. 4-year-old's going to go, what do you mean? Well, that's what we're doing when our conscious mind is setting a really detailed goal. The subconscious mind goes, I'll try. So we sort of like do okay for a week or whatever. And then suddenly we're like, forget about it. And we like find ourselves falling off because our subconscious mind doesn't understand what we truly want.
Yeah.
So I help people, and that's where we use neurolinguistic programming to understand how your specific mind is programmed. Once we understand your exact programming, we can translate whatever habit or goal that you have to the subconscious mind so that it's like telling the 4-year-old, stack your blue books, your yellow books, your green books. And it goes, okay, no problem. Goal totally easily obtained. And it becomes habit. It becomes something that you do without having to think about it or force it.
Mm.
Or does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. Well, and I think about like being so detailed like that. Even if it's, a plan that I've already set in motion, that conscious mind, the goal that I set, right? If it's
Mm-hmm.
that detailed, I feel like I get exhausted
Okay.
after a
Yeah.
while. Even if I've already said it and I know like, okay, on this day I'm doing this, on this day I'm doing this, I get tired. Like I'm just like I can't do this all the time.
Well,
I
and
can't make
and
those
I
decisions
won't go.
all the time.
Yeah, and I won't go too much into the science of that, but you're using your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex, and it's an absolute energy hog. So it takes a
Mm.
ton of energy to think. This is why we get really tired when we're studying for a test or we're preparing for something that we put a lot of thought into. Just like you said, you get super wiped out, exhausted. That's because the PFC is such an energy hog. So it was really important to layer in food and rest. These are some of the things I teach my clients, right? Because we have to fuel the brain, otherwise it doesn't work. But
Yeah.
people don't see food necessarily as a brain fuel. We see it as, am I going to look good in these jeans or not? Right? So we're
Yeah.
so concerned about what we're eating when we can see it from a brain perspective. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really, really cool. So, oh man. Okay, so with your clients, what kind of programs do you have? Do you do one-on-one or do you do group coaching? All of the above?
All of the above. So yeah, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching.
Mhm.
Sometimes people really want that personalized, hey, this is what I need triage in my life. Like
Yeah.
I can't seem to get along with my spouse, or I'm just keep getting stuck in this rut. And they just really like that personalized one-on-one. And I do those in person and remote. And then I also do group stuff. So I have been teaching a class that I created called Brain Basics. And I've been teaching this class for 5 years now. And initially, this class was all live taught. So, I'd have a group of 10 to 15 people every week. People would show up to the meeting, Zoom. I was doing Zoom before Zoom was cool.
Nice. Should have
We'd
bought
show
stock.
I know, right? Seriously, right? So we would show up for 1 hour a week for 6 weeks, and it's called Brain Basics. And really, it's everything that I just kind of talked about. We do set habits and goals. We do learn subconscious programming in that course. People learn how food fuels the brain. People learn what triggers them and why they go into these defensive responses. It's really sort of a very high level, but very complex, like, all the teachings that I have are really kind of highlighted in this course. I've
Mhm.
now have it on demand. So I'm super excited. I just recently launched it so that if somebody wants to sign up for it, they can just go online, and it's self-paced. So I think there's 95 modules. There's over 6 hours of recorded videos. They're in like 10, 15-minute segments, so people can do it at their own pace. There's
Oh, that's
journal
so
prompts.
cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And what I found with people I've had a lot of people take the live course and then they are also taking the pre-recorded. It's just a deeper layer. They're able to like do their own pace, etc. So I do group coaching that way. I teach a lot of corporate. So when teams are really needing to communicate better, think about it in
Wow.
office
Yeah.
space, right? So you get I'm just going to pick a name. Mary shows up, and Mary's like really frustrated because Fred did something in the office and there's conflict, right? And then
Yeah.
suddenly she recruits everybody into her little drama train, and like the whole office is dysfunctional. Well,
Mm.
everybody's moving into this defensive brain state. They're not performing well. They're not doing what they need to do as their job responsibilities. Their clients are suffering. It creates major problems in companies. And what I love is that most companies are super invested in their employees. They want to give them the best skill set training. So, oh, here's this new software. Here's these new tools. And then a lot of companies will even give them like management coaching or communication.
Yeah.
But what they're not doing is the work that I do, which is, hey, why are you pissed off at Fred all the time? What is this dysfunction?
Yeah.
How can you all help each other to make each other's brains in a safe space and this non-defensive? And I've had companies, they're so awesome, years ago that go, hey, we still use the technology, the language that you taught us. And it's just matter of fact, right? People aren't getting butt hurt because somebody said something. Instead, they're using a very scientific approach, and
Yeah.
it like sort of disappears. So I do a lot of corporate work. I do couples coaching. You can imagine how couples can have conflict. So I do a lot of work with
What?
couples. I know, right? I can't imagine that.
No.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Do you feel like a therapist?
Well, so here's the distinction.
Okay.
Yes, I feel like that, and I can't tell you how many times my clients tell me you're better than any therapist I've ever been to. And I don't say that to toot my own horn. I say that because my approach is so different.
Mm.
People finally have access to what makes them tick. And they go, oh my God, this is so obvious. This is so basic. I'm not a bad person. I'm not hypersensitive. I'm not whatever we believe. You said earlier, like, oh, I'm just a lazy person. People can give up those stories and they go, oh my gosh, my brain was just doing a brain thing. Now I can do this other thing. And it just disappears a lot of that stuff we make up. The
Yeah.
other distinction that as a coach versus therapist, the way our brain works is we create neural pathways. Have you heard of that term before?
Yeah. Like the actual physical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an actual physical pathway that's created in the brain.
Mhm.
The brain doesn't know the difference between an actual happening, an actual event versus a thought. So if we're trying to create newness in our life, we're trying to create a new life, a new way of being, and we're constantly exercising an old pathway because we're talking about the past over and over and over. Oh my gosh, my boyfriend did this and then he did that and we can't seem to get along and here's our last argument and here's why he did this and this is why I did that.
Yeah.
The brain goes, "Oh, this is what you want." You continually talk and think and process and have the same emotions. So the brain is like, "Okay, this is where you want to stay." And we get stuck.
Mm.
So as a coach, I help people create new neural pathways, new ways of being. And these actual old ones, the physical thing of it is they prune away.
Oh,
It's a physical phenomenon. I have a video. It's the coolest thing ever. The neural pathways can actually prune away. And when you stop using them, they go away. When we create new ones, then we have a new way of being. Think
mm,
about something in your life where it was like really big deal. You thought, oh gosh, I'm never going to get over this. Maybe from high school. Maybe you don't have to share it. But think about something where you're like, wow, it was really, really difficult.
yep.
And at the time, you're like, oof, never gonna, this is gonna be like this for the rest of my life. Now, if you look back on it and it's just a thing and you don't have the emotional reaction to it, do you have an instance like that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a pruned away neural pathway.
Hmm.
And that's essentially what we're trying to do. We're not trying to erase our past. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
We just don't want the emotional pull. We don't want that like reaction, that feeling of stress or sadness or pain. So, right, that thing doesn't cause you pain or worry anymore. It's just an event of the past. That's a pruned away neural pathway. So that's my intention with clients, is to help them prune away and create new ones, create a new way of being.
Okay. Very cool. So I've um been learning a lot lately about like affirmations and having that repetitive kind of practice to help you kind of start to think a different way. What do you think about that? What do you think about
Yeah,
affirmations?
no, I think they're great. I think I mean, I have my opinions about everything because, I'm an opinionated woman, aren't we all?
What?
What? How is that possible? Um, yeah, affirmations are great. And I think maybe where they fall short is if we truly believe them or not, because there may be a
Mm,
deep rooted belief. If we say, I am worthy, I am lovable, I am abundant, or whatever the affirmation is, but there's something subconsciously that has us sabotaging or maybe not believing it to be true. It might not even be something that we're consciously aware of. I help
yeah.
clients look into that subconscious piece. There's different tools out there, brain spotting, hypnotherapy. There's some amazing ways to access some of those limiting blocks. But yeah, I think affirmations are huge. They absolutely can create those new neural pathways. And I'm sure you've experienced that before. You shift that mindset and you're like, wait a minute, I am happier now. I've been focusing on happiness and now I'm happier.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that in your life?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Especially in the last year. Yeah.
yeah, and part of that is the programming of the subconscious, right? So I said the subconscious is the goal getter. If we're always in that negative mindset of I just can't run a mile. I just can't, I'm just too tired to exercise today. I just need that sugar today. The subconscious goes, okay,
Okay.
well, I'll do that. Absolutely. You want to rest? Let's rest.
Mm,
So it's really what our thoughts are really drive our behaviors, and it helps get us where we want to go or get us where we don't want to go.
okay. Yeah, so it's not like because with those affirmations, like you said, if you don't believe, so it's you can't really fake it till you make it.
You kind of can, but where I think the difference is having the emotional connection to it. When we
Mm,
start to have the emotion, so if you say I am happy and that's your affirmation, really feeling what happiness is. Because again, the brain doesn't know the difference between a thought or reality. So if you're sitting in meditation and you're thinking, I am happy, well, it's just a thought. It's not really that big of a deal. But we then add the emotional piece. That emotion actually creates a chemical response. It releases dopamine or serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
So then we actually start to feel happy in the moment because we're feeling happy in the moment and the body's biologically responding. And so then we go, wow, I feel happy. Well, I wonder why. Because you tapped into happiness and now we're experiencing it. So that's really the way for affirmations to really take hold, is to tie them into the emotional programming. And that's the biggest piece, the missing piece that I think in some of the standard affirmation work that people do.
Okay. Yeah, it's not just about repeating a mantra over and over and over again. It's about figuring out why
Yeah, and feeling it.
and
Really
feeling it.
actually feeling it. Because if you say
Yeah.
I am abundant, what does abundant feel like?
Right.
And start being abundant, start feeling it. And it actually does change the biochemistry of the body.
Mm, that's really cool. No, I actually had an interview with um, another woman earlier today. We were talking about a lot of similar things. And
Mm-hmm.
for affirmations, there were three things she said for an affirmation to like work. Has to be believable,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to be like reasonable,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and emotion. Yeah, and then you have to tap into the emotions.
Yeah.
You know, like it has to, oh, useful, not reasonable, useful,
Okay.
believable, useful, and emotional. And I thought that was really interesting because I'd heard so many affirmations, and I was like, how do I just say, um, like I am a six-figure income earner, when my brain's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
you know,
Girl.
like I'm not, but I can say something like, I am becoming that. I like it's more of a, it's something I do believe in. And when I say I am becoming, I can see it,
Yeah.
but if I just say I am, I'm like, no, I'm not.
And so that's awesome. And so if you fast forward to the future
hmm
and you are that six-figure income earner, how do you feel? What emotion does that bring you?
Emotion. Seriously, I just talked to her about this earlier, so I'm like, I haven't had time to think about this.
Oh, yeah, no,
Um,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm just thinking about, like, does it make you feel really proud? Do you feel
yeah,
excited? Do you feel
yeah, proud, excited, peaceful. Like, because the reason behind it is I want to be the I want to replace my husband's salary so he can pursue things that he's put off for a long time since I stayed at home with the kids. And like, so that sense of like he can do what he wants because I am doing what I want.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
so yeah, there's your emotion that you get to like be with, and that excitement, that proud, that what was your last word, did you say?
at peace.
At peace. Yeah, absolutely at peace. That's awesome. And what does
Yeah.
he want to do? What's his dream?
Oh, he's very passionate about helping people. He wants to be in a ministry, in a college age ministry. He wants to help kids that are at that time in their life where, all their friends have moved away. Sometimes they're away from their parents. Like, it's just kind of a hard time.
Sure.
And he just wants to help. He wants to help them not feel alone. So he's not sure. We're not sure like where that's going to be, if it's going to be in like a counseling kind of thing, or I don't know, but yeah, he just, and I want him to, because he's just such a beautiful, amazing person, and he has so much to give. And and he has a good job that's paying the bills, but he doesn't like it. He doesn't hate it, but he's like, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't spark anything for him. But trust me, I get it. I mean,
right?
I know what that's like.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it's
that's
time.
awesome.
We're getting there.
Well, yeah, good for you to support that and to see, because by you helping him, you're helping those kids too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
awesome.
so you had said something, and this is something that I've been hearing a lot lately that is still like blows my mind. that the brain can't distinguish between what's actually happening and a thought. Like, what? How? Like,
I don't know how. I would love to say I knew how. I would be probably like speaking at neuroscience conferences. I don't think anybody, I mean, maybe people know how,
hmm.
but this is why oftentimes I have a lot of clients that don't sleep.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing before bed? And they're like, oh my God, we had to watch CSI. And I'm like, whoa, your brain thinks it's in a crime scene and you're living in, so of course you're triggering this fight and flight response, which then releases a bunch of adrenaline in your body. How the heck are you going to sleep with your body flooded with adrenaline? Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, when people get into that triggered state, their boss upsets them or they're in an argument with their spouse, it's no different than being threatened, like a burglar walking into your house. The brain reacts in a threatened response. We move into what's called a limbic state. And from there, our nervous system shifts into a sympathetic arousal. So we
Yeah.
contract. So you notice that, right? You're in an argument with someone and you're all of a sudden
Yeah.
have this contract state. Our heart starts to race, our shoulders are up here, our palms get sweaty, we get contracted. It's a fight and flight response. It's a
Hmm.
sympathetic nervous arousal. Same thing would happen if a burglar's in your house, right? We go
Hmm.
into that contraction state. And from there, in that brain state, we're reactionary, we're defensive, we become aggressive, we want to run away and not deal with the situation. We can see that both with an actual threat or being in an argument with someone,
Hmm.
right? We're trying to defend ourselves. We're trying to get our point across or be heard, or right. And we get real argumentative, we get short, like our behavior isn't our very best behaviors. And we don't mean to. We say stuff that we sometimes regret and we're like, oh my God, why did I say that? Was so mean.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're defending ourselves, right? If you're backed into a corner, there's no holding
Gotta
back.
fight your way out.
Fight your way out. So the brain thinks that the argument with your spouse or the conflict with your boss is an actual life-threatening situation. I
Hmm.
mean, it can feel more intense in certain things, but it does see it as a threat. And so the biology changes and our mindset changes. We become defensive. We're not going to be open to getting that constructive criticism,
Hmm.
right? We're not going to be open to resolving the issue with our spouse. Hey, let's just talk about loading the dishwasher. Go screw yourself, right?
And they're like, what?
Yeah, it's that state. And if both people are in that state, there's no conflict resolution, not happening.
Hmm.
So, so what I help people with is to go, okay, wait, we're in a defensive brain state. We're in that limbic response. How can we move back to that parasympathetic nervous state, move into the thinking brain? And when we're in that brain state, we're compassionate, we're
Hmm.
open-hearted, we're empathetic, we're able to listen, we're able to respond. And so if that couple or if that relationship at work or whatever it is, we're in the prefrontal brain state, we go, okay, yeah, let's talk about loading the dishwasher. Yeah, I see your point. No different than that constructive criticism. Yeah, it could be more organized. That's
Yeah.
really the only distinction. You're not a different person. You didn't eat something different. You're not, it's not like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of situation, but it almost is, right? We kind of feel bipolar a little bit.
Yep.
When I explain this to my clients and they go, oh, so it's just my brain trying to protect me? Yeah. Oh my God, I feel so much relief. They feel
Hmm.
like, oh my God, I'm not a horrible, bitchy, awful human. My brain was just doing something to protect me. And now I have the tools to change that and forgive myself and to be more compassionate and know that, hey, it's going to happen again and again and again and again. At least I know why now. And it's that
Yeah.
why piece that is such a big change for people.
Yeah. And have you noticed just being aware
Oh my God,
changes so much?
everything, everything. I have a client, she's 75 years old. I've
Mhm.
been working with her almost every week for 5 years. I love her to death. And she had massive amounts of anxiety.
Hmm.
She'd been through counseling her whole life, substance abuse stuff going on. And after a while of working with her, she goes, I'm not broken. I'm like, no. She goes, it's just my brain trying to protect me. And that's what makes me anxious. And that's what makes me react. And she started to see this duality of her brain. And it has been massive for her to go, oh my gosh, my anxiety is just my brain trying to help me out. And so she just created a totally new relationship with herself.
Yeah.
And it's been, anybody I work with, they're just to know that piece of what's happening is like keys to the kingdom. It just feels
Uh,
like such a relief.
well, and you're so much more forgiving with yourself, so much more forgiving with everybody.
Well, that's exactly right. Think about being in that argument with your spouse
Hmm.
and he's freaking out because something happened with the dishwasher. I mean, I don't know. I make up crazy stories, but they're not uncommon for somebody to get in a fight. And then later you're telling your girlfriends, like, why did you guys get in a fight? Well, he unloaded the dishwasher wrong. What? But imagine he gets upset over
Hmm.
something that you think is irrelevant or small or shouldn't be being upset. It's just his brain. And
Yeah.
we go, oh, honey, your brain is just doing the brain thing. Let me help
Yeah.
you. And when both people have the tools to help move each other into that, calm brain state, the thinking brain, oh my God, what a way to honor your partner. To say, oh,
Hmm.
baby, hold on. You're reacting right now. Instead of, you should just relax or calm down, because that is
Calm
not
down. That
calm
always
down.
works.
Woo, woo, that works great. But if instead he goes, oh, hey, let's breathe for a moment. Let's just take a break. Let's go sit in your room for a little bit and let's come back in 10 minutes or whatever the tools are that work best for you. If he knows how to support you, oh my God, what a way of honoring you and not making you wrong for something that your brain is doing. And imagine you
Yeah.
doing it for him. Like it's the highest way of respecting someone else and allowing them to just work through whatever and not getting mad or trying to change somebody. It's just like letting their
Hmm.
body. You wouldn't get mad if like he had to put glasses on. Oh my God, you have to read the menu, you have to put glasses on. What's wrong with you?
This is
No,
ridiculous.
this is ridiculous. No, he wears glasses. Okay, no big deal. Hey, we go into this limbic response. No big deal. Here's tools. And so
Yeah.
I think everybody, if they just knew this information, God, this information, imagine if it was taught in middle school and we
Oh my
knew
gosh.
this stuff. I'm so blessed to have this information. My boys are in high school. They're 15 and 17, and they've known this stuff for 5 years now. And,
Yeah.
you know, they get to go, oh, okay, I'm having a reaction. Instead of me
Mhm.
saying, oh my God, you're such a bad kid. You should go to boot camp. You should be better. You should stop reacting. You should calm down and sit down. No, I'm like,
Grow
hey, go,
up.
yeah, grow up. Stop being so immature. Right? No, I put a punching bag in my kid's room and I'm like, hey, go punch it out and come back. And he comes back. He's like, Mom, sorry. I just was having a limbic response. And I'm like, yeah, kiddo, you were. And it's over, right? Like it's just a tool that I think everybody on this planet needs to know just so we understand ourselves better and people better. It's such a form of compassion.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you brought up your boys because that's huge that you're teaching them to not like just be in control of themselves, but just to like be aware of what's happening in their brain because especially I mean they're teenagers. Teenagers have a rough time.
Yes.
I think back when I was a teenager, I was like I was a mess.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to handle all of the stuff that was going on inside me. And so I just kind of like I'll just be nice all the
Yeah.
time.
For
And I
me,
didn't know, yeah. Yeah, and so you doing that for your boys is huge.
oh, when I teach
And
their
oh,
friends, they're like, "Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a lesson from Miss Lisa," right? And I'm like, "Hey guys, let's talk about our
get
brains."
ready.
And I try to do it in ways that it doesn't feel like a lecture. But God, I wish I would have known this stuff in middle school. But that's the
Yeah.
thing is, every client I've ever had, nobody knows this stuff, and they're adults. And I have clients that are CEOs and high performing executives and athletes, and you're like, oh, I thought you had your shit together because you're like,
Right?
pretty elite. No, they don't know this stuff either.
Hmm.
And so I want my intention is for more people to know it. That's what I care about. It's not to build my business, not to grow my practice. It's to get information out so they can share it. I always teach my clients, if they have kids, I'm like, okay, here's your tools, but here's your tools for your kids. And this is how to explain it to them. I want them to instill it, because when they see mom can emotionally regulate and mom's helping them emotionally regulate, and they start to feel in control, they start to feel like, oh my God, I'm not spinning out of control and I'm such a bad kid.
Mm.
There's no better gift you can give your child. And so I am so committed to making sure that, if people have kids, like, pass this along, or pass it to your friends, pass it to your whomever, like, share it, share it.
Right.
Share it. Mm-hmm.
That is so great. Well, and it's such a simple, it's a simple concept, right? Like you
It's so,
said, you kind of expect everybody to know, but they
yeah,
don't.
they don't. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know it either,
Well, and you're
right?
never taught. We're never
Never
taught.
taught. When I used to run the construction sites, I've done personal development work for 25 years. Like I said, I'm a bit of a junkie. I love to learn stuff. And so I loved the art of management. I loved to be able to communicate with guys on my team to inspire them and motivate them. And it was super exciting because, you'd get through to somebody who was, you kind of didn't think, they were kind of roughneck, right? You weren't sure if you'd get through to them. And then they were inspired. And that was all great until I was triggered. And when I was triggered, I was a mess. I would scream and yell. And believe it or not, I threw chairs and I was super aggressive.
Oh.
And people were like, whoa, yesterday you were like Tony Robbins motivational speaker and we were all like kumbayaing in the trailer. And today you're throwing chairs and you're such a bitch. And like, what
Mm.
happened to you? Well, I didn't know. And once I realized, oh my God, it's my brain. And then I had the tools to shift my brain into that, cognitive state, that prefrontal state. And then I had access to the great tools. It was like, wow, I finally got control of my life. I got control of my behavior. And I started to teach it to them. And they were like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? Like, I can actually not just freak out on my wife or freak out on my apprentice or freak out on
Yeah.
my colleague. It's such a powerful tool to know this stuff.
Hmm. Well, and it's like I keep thinking it's not just for a certain kind of person. It's not just for entrepreneurs, obviously. It's not just for high-level executives. It's for everybody. Everybody can learn to handle their emotions better.
People,
And yeah, just learn how to deal with it, right?
sure. Yeah, my business coach asks me, who's your target audience? Like, what kind of clients do you work with? And I'm like, people with brains. like really, it's
Really
anybody.
narrows it down.
It narrows it right down where you can really focus on a niche that way, right? But it is anybody that has a brain, has this response. And I think there's so much when people take my brain basics course, the thing that I hear the most is, oh my God, everybody does this. Everybody goes into those negative thought patterns. And all of a sudden your boss looked at you wrong. And then you're upset about that. And then you see yourself getting fired. And then you see yourself not getting another job and you're ending up in a box under a bridge. Like, everybody does that. And I'm like, yeah, we all go into those cognitive distortions where we're living in doom and gloom and chicken little, the sky's falling. Our brains are set up to do that. And when they understand, oh my God, this is my brain's way of protecting me, I'm not crazy, and everybody does this, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and no, I just love that. And I think it's such an important thing to learn. And I love that you're teaching it to your kids. And like I hope that there are people out there that also want to teach it to kids. I mean, you're teaching it to your clients who are hopefully teaching it to their kids as well, but maybe we can, raise a new generation that has so much more awareness. I think we are. I hope we are. But I don't know. That's my goal to, for my kids to just be them and be good being them.
Yes. Yeah. And accept themselves and accept others. I think, God, with this social media age now, everybody's
Mm.
thinking their life should be different and they should look different and they should do something different and they're just not good enough or not smart enough. Whatever it is, it's heartbreaking to see what social media is doing and the competition and the self hatred and just the internal dialogue that kids have. So I
Yeah.
love your and I love that that's your intention with your kids. I'm happy to teach you tools and some of this brain stuff. And, let's obviously I'm committed to creating a movement of everybody knowing this. So yeah, anything that I can share with you.
Love it. Okay, so you just brought up social media. That could be like a whole other hour-long thing. But real quick, like in terms of what you've learned and what you teach, do you think social media will ever go away or be better than what it is?
Gosh, that's so not in my I don't think it's bad. I mean, so I think there are things that are detrimental about it, and I think there's things that are amazing about it. So I don't know about it being better. I think
Okay.
some people use it for or we can become addicted to it or can be harmful, like what I was just saying, where there's the whole comparison thing. But I also look at my feeds, what I've subscribed to and enrolled in is, wow, I get some pretty amazing conversations and thought-provoking things and stuff that has me, I don't know, feel good. There's affirmation work
Yeah.
in there. There's, like, oh my God, I follow this particular person and I love this blog or I love this post. So I feel like I curate my experience. So I think that's very individualized. I think
Mhm.
if people are out there curating hate or they're curating the comparison model, that's where the shift should happen, is what we're consuming.
Yeah.
Because people are going to continue to produce stuff that people are consuming. And if we stop consuming the negative, if we stop consuming the stuff that's like drama and makes us feel crappy, nobody's going to produce it because there's not going to be a market for it.
Right.
I think it'll go away? No. I mean, I think this is just the new age. I watch my 15-year-old and he's in front of a computer a lot. I was really concerned about his video gaming because he's in front of a computer. I remember at that age, I was outside, I was playing with friends. I don't know, learning how to bake. I don't know why I would do that at his age, but I love to bake. I was like, wow, my kid is sitting in front of a computer playing video games. I wonder how harmful this is. So I watched, and he had his headset on, right? Has the microphone. He had one ear off, one ear on, and the headphone.
Mhm.
And he was typing with his left hand. He can type more words per minute with his left hand than I can with both hands, really concentrating. He's like a million words a minute typing as he's talking. And he's the leader of his group or whatever. He's commanding where the guys go and what to do. And he's playing his video game with his right hand, right? He's going around and doing his thing, typing and talking. And I went, okay, here's some life skills, right? He's got leadership skills, he's got multitasking skills, he's got typing skills, he's got, hand-eye coordinate. Like I could see him using those skills in real life. And so I guess what I'm trying to say with that is that, I think that with the social media stuff that's out there, it can be very beneficial. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs that are, growing their business and doing great things because of social media. So I think it can be really good. I think that's just like anything, like
Yeah. Yep.
everything has a negative and a positive. I think it's important as parents to guide our children into, hey, don't consume stuff that's going to hurt you. Like, why would you do that? Because it can be very, very addictive. Noticing how the brain works, we can get big triggered reactions in those adrenaline responses when we're consuming negative things, and it does become addictive. So
Yeah.
I think we just make wise choices and help our children make wise choices. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of,
Yeah, you totally did. Well, and I like that you say help them make wise choices instead of just steering them towards the positive, being like, here, just look at all the good stuff. I'll just show you the good stuff.
yeah.
Teaching them to be discerning, I think is
Well, yeah,
huge.
that's a huge tool, right? Like, during COVID, my kids failed all their classes. And I was like, oh my God, am I a bad parent? Should I jump in? Should I be the 800-pound gorilla? Should I be the mom that's like bribing them? And what I told them is, guys, listen, this is your test. This is your trial of how to life. You have an opportunity to either, get on the bandwagon and self-motivate and get your work done, or you can totally screw up. And if you screw up, there's consequences, right? You might have to repeat your grade. You might have to, your friends are going to make fun of you because you failed your grade, or whatever happens, or your own consequences. But this is yours. You get to
Yeah.
try life without being on your own. You still have a roof over your head. Mom's still going to love you and feed you and all of that stuff. Figure it out. And that's kind of how I parent. Might not be the best way, but I really let my kids navigate their lives, and I'll help them. But I want there to be thinking and choice. I don't want to lay it out for them and tell them what to do, because
Yeah.
that doesn't give them the responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and it won't help them.
Exactly. Yeah, they get off to college and they're like, "Where's mom? I don't know how to make a decision for myself."
Right? I
Right.
don't know how to do laundry. What am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
can yeah, that can be very detrimental to a kid. I think I'm gonna wrap this up. This
Yeah.
was an amazing conversation.
Oh my gosh, girl, it was so great to chat with you. Thank you
You
for the
too.
opportunity.
Um, yeah, okay, so can you please let me know like where you want people to find you if you have like a program going on right now? Yeah, whatever you're doing.
Awesome. Well, lmarini.com is my website. So lmarini.com. It's like martini without the T.
Oh, I like
So
that.
yeah, that's my website. And on there is my Brain Basics class. It's the on-demand program. I'm doing an offer right now. That's for holidays. They get a whole gift pack with the class. They get like a meditation mask and a water bottle and a journal and a pen and all these goodies. The class is $245. They get all the goodies free. So
Nice.
if they want to buy that for themselves or they want to gift it, I can't tell you, people are saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to get my girlfriend. I don't know what to get my wife. I don't know what to get my boyfriend." And I'm like, well, how about you give them something that will change their lives
Yeah.
instead of another sweater, right? So I do that. I have it set up so that they can just purchase it. I package the whole gift with a gift card. It's gift wrapped. It gets sent to their house, and then they can open it on the holidays. So I have that offer going right now. You can find that under the Brain Basics gift. But yeah, just poke around my website. There's tons of places to book free consultations. I always like to make sure that people feel like it's a good fit. And
Yeah.
so yeah, they can always just reach out to me and chat, see if they want to work with me. So
Oh, I love
yeah.
that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This has been awesome. I so appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.